Hello and welcome back. It's another video in the Find the Fun in Feb challenge for 2026. Now firstly, big apologies, there have been no videos from me this week. It's been a combination, I have to say, of a very heavy workload and also some very unseasonable storms that we have had here, which have caused us some weather related issues this week, but anyway, I'll tell you about those later. Okay, this is our monthly challenge for February, run by Hazel and Candy, whose channels are linked in the description below. Now, because I am so far behind, I'm going to combine two prompts today, and this was something suggested by Hazel in one of her videos a little while ago, but also I have something that I want to do, that these two prompts, the underwater and the window or tunnel, they go together really well. So I'm going to be combining these today. It might be one video, I might split it into two parts depending on how long it takes, but that's where I'm going. So underwater, and I'm actually doing window. So underwater and window. Now, if you think about that for just a moment, you may well come up with the thought of a porthole. And I was inspired by this, which is actually the top of a pizza box. Now, we very, very rarely buy takeaway food, because partly we live an hour away from the nearest town and the nearest takeaway, but pizzas in particular, because unfortunately I have to eat gluten-free, and you very rarely get a ready-made gluten-free pizza, or one that's palatable anyway. But we did recently find one of these rarities, and it had this lovely lovely lid with the window. And knowing that we did have a prompt of window for this challenge, I went, oh, and saved it. Anyway, that's what this is. This is another piece of packaging of similar weight that I've cut out as well. So I've cut the lid of this pizza box to fit my page, more or less. And I've also cut this piece, and this is going to fit on here like this. And as you may have guessed, this is going to be a porthole. So that's my window, and in here is obviously going to be an underwater scene. So I'm going to work on my porthole first. So let's put the book aside. Pop it up there, excuse my arm. And I've got a trusty old piece of acetate here. Just turn over so that the blue paint's on the other side. What I'm going to do with this, I've got these napkins or serviettes that have this wood grain effect, and I am going to separate these out just so that I've got the pattern layer, and I'm going to attach, what do you call, decoupage maybe? Anyway, I'm going to attach with glue this napkin so that the cardboard looks as though it has a wood grain to mimic the inside of the ship. Now I'm going to do these two pieces separately, and the reason being is that I want to attach some studs and things to this so that it does look like a porthole. So let's separate out. I'll put this piece away safely because that can be used for something else. I'm going to need another napkin, so let's separate out another one. And I've got a mixture of watered down PVA glue that I use for napkins like this. There we go. Now these are any cheapy ones, so they're only 2 ply, but that's fine for our purposes here. So I've got those two pieces. All right, and I'm actually going to start with this bigger piece. So let's put those to the side for a minute. And while I find my stuff and I'm working, I'll tell you a bit about my week. Right. As some of you will know, that's been in blue water. Is that going to be okay? Let's dry it off properly. As some of you know, Mr. Jem and I run our own tourism business, tourist accommodation. Oh, it's been flat out this week. We've been working 12, if not 13 hours a day. So hence I've not really got up to my creative space very much, or at all. And just to add to that, here in New Zealand we had a pretty major weather event last weekend. As I say, it's supposed to be summer. We've had a shocking summer here. It's been really up and down. One minute it's a normal sort of 25-30 degrees, and the next minute it's cold and raining. Anyway, last Sunday we had the most horrific storm come through, and we've had several this year, and they've hit different parts of New Zealand, and last weekend was our turn. Okay, now that the breeze from my door is not helping. Never mind. Okay, so you can see that sticking. Yeah, so last weekend was our turn here in the Wanganui-Manawatu area. So we're sort of in the middle of the North Island of New Zealand. And yes, we had actually been into our local town, which is an hour away, and we'd stayed with some family on Sunday night in town, and Monday when we tried to come home we found that we couldn't get home. Now I know that sounds odd, but we live very rurally, and our road is very narrow, and we have big cliffs on one side and a big drop down into the river the other side. And as we were negotiating some small slips on the road trying to come home, we were very, very lucky. We right in front of our car another big slip happened, so we did sort of a 5 or 6 point turn on this very narrow road to go back the way we'd come back to town, when another slip happened the other side of us, and lo and behold we were stuck in the middle. Very scary, and pouring with rain, and we ended up leaving our ute, our big truck, and walking. When I say walking, we were scrambling over mud and boulders and rocks that had come down off the cliff, and they were still coming down, so it was a little bit scary. Anyway, long story short, our car was alright. Fortunately nothing hit it. We managed to get it out thanks to our local roading contractors, who worked really hard to clear the roads. They managed to sort of dig a single lane through all the slips for us to get it out in the evening. So bit of a scary experience, but fortunately we were all okay. But it's been, yeah, it's just been shocking right around the country. And, you know, sadly this summer we've had a number of incidents where people have died, you know, with slips, or when we say slips, I suppose I ought to explain that's kind of the New Zealand term for a landslide, a small landslide. Yeah, so we have had a number of fatalities either due to flooding or slips this year, and it's been horrific. So we're just counting ourselves very lucky this week. Anyway, so that was one of our days disrupted this week, and sort of got a bit behind. And as I say, on top of that, work has been very busy, and yeah, it's just getting up here to my creative space has just not happened. All right, hopefully you can follow what I'm doing here. Yeah, I'm just going around the edge of that window. This is a water pen, and it's just going to make it easier for me to remove that middle bit so that we get back to the window. Let's have a go. There we are. That should just tear out. Yes, so hopefully next week won't be quite so eventful, and we're a little bit quieter at work, so hopefully I'm going to be catching up this week. Alright, so yes, so when that's attached you won't see any of those edges, so I'm going to pop that to dry. That needs to dry both sides, and I'm going to do the same with this. Alright, whilst those two pieces are drying, I'm thinking about my page here. And what I've done, just in this middle section, which is what we will see, I've added an extra layer of gesso. If you compare it to this page here, you'll see there's extra gesso on there, because I want to really knock this, the original print, into the background. That gesso's dry, and I'm going to do the same now with just some white acrylic. Just to try and cover that that original print in the book, because I don't want that coming through my paint. Now, this may be a little bit of overkill, but I'd rather do this in terms of prep than I would you know, have to rectify it afterwards. So I'm just going to put a tiny bit more on there, and I'm going to grab that porthole and check that I've sort of covered the right the right area. Alright, let's have a quick look. There's a porthole that was sat in the sun. It's actually drying up really nicely. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, I'm pleased with that. That's looking quite good. All right. Right. I've been kind of deliberating about what to do, because I actually did an underwater page a couple of prompts ago. This was the prompt I did for fantasy. So this was very much under the water. So, and I've also been thinking, actually a porthole probably isn't completely under the water, maybe part of it. Anyway, I was thinking about doing fish and things like that, but again, that's still a bit wet. But again, I was thinking, I did that for the mermaid prompt here. Anyway, I was looking through a magazine for some ideas, and look what I have found. Now, my plan is to merge this picture of these two gorgeous children snorkeling and this part of the water, and I want to merge that with an acrylic background in the porthole like this. I don't know whether I can do this. Let's try it. This is mixed media at its best, isn't it? Let's give it a go. Okay, I'm going to cut a piece of this out around here, I think, and around the children. And then I'm going to merge that onto a painted background, hopefully. So let's see how that goes. Right, I'm going to get all my bits together and just roughly place my little fussy cut here. Where do I want this? Perhaps just slightly this way. Right, I think that's going to work about there. So without moving that, I'm going to take this off. Now, as you can see, this is warped slightly where it's dried. So whilst I'm doing the background, I'm going to put this under a book just to flatten out. And what I'm going to do next is, without moving that from where I wanted it, I'm just going to give myself a couple of little pencil marks around the edge, like that. Oh, I thought that white paint was dry. I don't want that stuck down yet. Right, so that's roughly where it's going to go. Let's get rid of these bits. And I'm going to find some paint to do sort of the sky and also the water. Okay, I've pulled out quite a dark green. It's a meadow green and a phthalo blue for the water. And then I've got some lighter colours which I'm going to do something for the sky. So I think we'll start with the lighter ones. I'm going to use the edge of my I'm going to use the edge of my acrylic, my acetate sheet here, and just put some paint on there. Now you see, this is why I wanted the white paint, because as you can see, this blue is quite see-through. It's quite a, it says it's medium bodied, but it is a cheap one, so you know, it's quite thin. It's fine for what I need today, but that's why I wanted that white paint. Okay, I'm going to need to fish out my porthole again in a minute to make sure we're just covering all of the background, but I think that's... And so what I've done is I've just gone behind the edge of where those pencil lines were, just to make sure we're not getting any edges there. Now I'm going to use a little bit of the white just to get some variation in here. You know, sky is never all one colour, is it? I'm not going to go for sort of fluffy cloud shapes. I'm just going to go particularly a bit higher up on the picture. I'm just going to go for some lighter. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this, I think you pronounce it phthalo blue. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And you'll see that this is the colour I was using the other day for my underwater picture with the mermaid. I'm just going to try and get a little bit of that along the bottom. I want that to just sort of merge along the water line. Let's just rinse. I'm going to rinse that brush out and dry it off, and just blend that in. Let's try a picture on there again. Yeah. A little bit of that lighter at the top. Alright, before I go to do the bottom, I'm going to find my porthole. As I said, I put it under a book to flatten it out, but I'm just going to grab that and check that we're roughly, just a little bit more at the top there, just to make sure we've got everything covered. There we go. Alright, let's have a look at this bottom. And this water is quite dark here. It's sort of a greeny, blue. So let's get a little bit of this dark meadow green and see what we can mix. I've just looked at this original photo, and you've got the children's legs coming down here, so I'm thinking that I might just add in a little bit of shading there, just to sort of indicate their legs, because I was thinking, well, it looks a bit odd, they look like they've been cut off in the middle, and we don't want that. So this is a little bit of Payne's grey. Just going to use this as a sort of here. Okay, right, I'm going to put that to the side to dry, and I'm going to put the porthole to. Just before I do put that to dry, I can't resist. I've got to chuck a little bit of green glimmer mist in that water, just to add a little bit of sparkle. There we go. Oh, that's gone a little bit green just there. Hold on. There we go, and that will give it just a little bit of shine. Right, let's put that to dry and sort out our porthole. Okay, so here's my porthole. Now, before I glue this on, I've got some of these little domed split pins or brads, and what I would like to do is to put these on around the porthole. Now I've got 6 of that colour. I don't know whether I've got, oh yeah, 6, 7, 8. Are they the same colour? No, those two are a slightly different colour. So I've definitely got 6, 8, 7. Oh, I do have 8. Now I'm wondering whether 8 will look too much, but we'll see. So what I'm going to do is to put that bit to the side, this bit, and I'm going to start. I'm actually going to measure about 1 centimetre, just over 1 centimetre in, about there, and I'm going to do the same down here. Actually, it's probably about 1.5 centimetres. I'm sort of eyeballing. And you can see I'm just poking it with a pencil really. Now, right, sorry, had a slight camera malfunction there, but what you can see is I used a very unscientific method, and I spaced those split pins, brads out around that the circle, the porthole, and then I have stuck the two things together. Now I'm going to pop that off to dry whilst I just put the finishing touches to the page, and then we can put them all together. Okay, so the page is nice and dry, and I'm going to glue the little cutout from the magazine on there. Just checking. Oh, there's a little bit of white just there and there. How did that happen? Oh, we'll just move it over a little bit. That's fine. Okay, I'm going to glue that on. I'm going to pull in my sheet again. I'm going to use a fairly strong glue because I'm gluing onto a painted surface which is quite uneven. Having gone to town the other day, I have got myself some new little bottles. I couldn't get any of the metal needle nose ones, but I have managed to get some small ones, but I haven't got my glue in there yet, so that's something I must get on and do. Right, let's see if we can get this in the right place. Before I push that right down, I want to just make sure, yeah, it's going to sit right with our porthole. Yes, okay. So let's tuck that down. Now, do you know, one thing I might do, just to blend this bit in, is just with my finger, I'm going to use a wet finger and I'm going to pick up some of this paint that's left on here. Might need a little bit more blue. I think that's not quite such a harsh edge there now. Now the other thing that's bugging me, I've got a very small brush here. I'm actually just going to put it straight on my brush like that, and there's a little bit of white magazine there that's bugging me, and just around the edge. Right. Okay, let's put it all together. Oh, I know what else I was going to do. I have just very carefully penciled, I don't know whether you can see, some little birds in the sky here, and I thought it might be fun just to just a couple of little birds there. Hopefully we'll still see them with the porthole. Which way round are we going? Oh, this way. Oh, we've lost the birds. Okay. So we need to move them down a little bit. I think they add a little bit of something, but they need to come down. There we go. Put one more just up here. We might just see a little bit of it. Okay. Right, this is going to need, I'm just going to move that paint so I don't put my arm in it or anything else. Right, this is going to need some strong glue, and it's probably going to need a weight on it to get it to stick. Actually, I'll cut that little bit of bulk off because this is going to be quite thick as it is. Right, I'm going to put some heavy weights on this and I'll come back and show you when it's set. Alright, that's more or less dry. I think it's going to probably need weighing down overnight, but I will do that. But I want to add just a couple of pieces to finish this page off. I've got some little bits. I've pulled out my travel bits and pieces here, and I think it just needs a little bit of something like that just to finish the page off. So let's get these on and we'll see what it looks like when we've finished. Okay folks, that's our page for today. I've been combining the prompts of underwater and window, so we're just having a bit of fun here with some mixed media stuff. I hope it's been fun for you to watch. Hopefully I'll be back within the next couple of days with another video catching up with the prompts in the Find the Fun in Feb challenge. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, happy crafting. Ka kite anō.